Public Service Committee meeting Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. It's a little after 6, so we're going to get started. Roll call, please.
Chairman Rick Streebing,
Here.
Vice Chairman Sherry Pickering,
Here.
Alderman Ethan Burt,
Present.
Eve Ludwig,
Present.
Tricia Teague,
Present.
Robert Williams,
Present.
Darren York,
Present.
7 present.
Oh, thank you. Puts us to item number 2, approval of minutes from 11/22/22. I'll need a motion and a second to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on those minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye and approving them.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda that we have in front of us this evening. I'll need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions or any changes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? We have an agenda then. Number 4 is audience comments. Anybody like to speak to the Public Service Committee this evening? Anybody out there want to talk? Okay. Chairman's comments. Just remind everybody that next Tuesday we do not have a meeting. And I wrote it down because I've been here many times before, thinking I was late and there's nobody here.
Chairman, we weren't going to tell on you, so I know you just.
Hey, it's one of them things, you know? It happens. All right. Puts us to approval of payrolls for 1/20/23. Need a motion and a second to put this out so we can vote on it.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any questions on the payrolls? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
And yes, it moves on. Item number 7, approve vouchers payable. We have a special run for 1/20/23 and a regular run of 1/24/23. I'll need a motion and a second from the vouchers payable, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Is there any questions on the vouchers payables? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, motion carries. Put us item number 8, city clerk's report. Lisa Monson, I don't think we really had anything. Do we have any items of information?
Lisa just had submitted that she is working right now on the Statement of Economic Interest. It's an annual list that she compiles to give to the Vermillion County Clerk's Office, other than our normal day-to-day duties. And that's all we have.
Okay. Any questions for the clerk's office?
Chairman, I just want to say I appreciate our deputy clerk, Han, in Lisa's absence. She's really stepped up. Lisa's also been working more than she should be working from home, so I've tried to get her to
Yeah.
relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
how that goes. So.
Well, thank you. Puts us item number 9, Community Relations Administrator. We have Ashton Greer. We have 9A, a resolution authorizing a budget amendment to fiscal year 2022 to 2023 Public Affairs, budget number 13. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Streebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, the motion carries. Puts us to 9B, items of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So I just attached for you guys this item of information. It just shows why I made the request. We have additional sponsorship revenue coming in this year, which puts our revenue line over, and so we need to adjust it. And then Progressive Dinner ticket sales and Danville's Got Talent admission sales as well. So increasing both the revenue and expense line should balance out really nicely. So thank you.
Is there any questions for Ms. Greer? Thank you. Puts us, where are we at? Okay, item number 10, finance. 10A, we have a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the fiscal year 2022, 2023 finance. Number 11, budget. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions on this resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Strebe,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
7 yes.
And yes, thank you. Puts us to 10B, items of information, risk management monthly report, and number 2 would be personnel monthly report.
Good evening. You have both reports mentioned in the packet in front of you. Are there any questions on those before I move into a small update? Okay, so the finance department, last time we met, I mentioned we had a grant manager position posted. That position has been filled. We decided to promote internally. We promoted Kaylee Sanchez from billing and collection specialist to grant manager. Since then, we have also posted and filled the vacant billing and collection specialist position. Miss Serena Edwards just started last week, and she seems to be a very promising addition to the city finance department, so we're very happy to have her. So that's been taking up a lot of our time in finance, of course, all the things we normally do on a regular basis. So is there any questions about anything related to the finance division?
Woohoo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, puts us, item number 11. We have Aaron Marcotte, the fire chief, and 11A, we have a resolution to apply for assistance to firefighters grant AFG. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this resolution? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Strebe,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, carries, thank you. Puts us to 11B, items of information. Looks like B1 is a 2022 annual report, and B2 is a monthly status report. Chief?
Yeah, so a few of us put together as much as we could. I know I had my first month off to talk to you guys, so we just kind of combined all the information and decided to get together and sort of reestablish an annual report. I would call this our numbers, what the services that we provide, things like that. And then what we hope to do is after June or July next year, give you more of a fiscal sort of situation report and maybe some supplemental reports in between of just the different areas the fire department works on and things. So there's a few items in there that we ended the calls at 4,260 last year, which is our most ever. We also went back and looked at through 2015 through now, and we're looking at basically 78% increase since 2015 till now in the number of calls we're responding to. And most of that data is in the back of the packet. It also breaks down the types of calls we go on for you. We broke them down by incident type towards the end. And there's some in there just like time of day, time of week, day of the week that we go on calls, and that's just so you get an overall picture of just I'd say the consistency that we're busy responding to different incidences. Towards the back, we have a property and loss and saved value. Essentially, we ended the year at 1.6 estimated damage with a $41 million in those same properties being saved by the extinguishment. Again, I always say those are estimates. It'd be like asking all of you to tell us what the value of this room would be and having those numbers. But we do have some processes. We're trying to make better processes now about how we do that using tax codes and things like that, and how we report that information, defining really like blue book values and things like that so we can get a truer number as we go along. And we ended the year with 14 injuries to fire personnel, 3 civilian injuries, and we had, unfortunately, 1 civilian death for the 2022 year. So other than that, at the beginning of the reports, a lot of our training hours that we've spent, so we can actually start making some goals to try to improve those areas and try and do is the idea. So hopefully by the next time I can report to you, we can report how we're getting better in some of those areas or doing more, whatever. So if you have any questions about the annual report,
Thanks for all this data.
well, yeah.
Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How's our staffing shaping up?
I'm getting there. Well, we're down currently 5. We have 1 more retirement effective the 1st of February. So I think we're looking at hiring those 5 and replacing those 5. We just completed our list. So we had a new hire list that was going on through December. We had 29 original applicants. We're down to 18 that finished. That list will be certified at the February 7th Police and Fire Board meeting. So after that, we intend to hopefully fill some of the spots. Academy's beginning February 27th, so it'll be a pretty quick process to hopefully try and get those guys in and over.
So Alderman, we will be sending at least 5 to Academy. With the rate of attrition that we've had with folks retiring and stuff, we are considering sending, if we can get the 6th slot, sending a 6th person. Because as you all know, anytime that we're down, if there's not an academy coming soon, then that can be months to a half a year that we go without that manning, which creates a lot more manning overtime. And so we are looking at that option as well.
Good.
And we also had, we just had 2 guys come off the long-term injuries and they're back starting this week. So that's going to help obviously too and things. So moving towards the right direction.
Any other questions for the chief? Ms. Teague?
I'm just curious if there are plans to do some analysis on the data to get an understanding of possibly why there's such a huge increase.
Why we keep going up. Yeah, I've actually reached out to some of the other departments that we call comparable departments and asked them, and it seems to be a trend almost everywhere.
Okay.
That everybody's numbers are up, and it's going up about the same as like we are, about 300 to 200, 300 every year, whatever. So I guess just national trends.
Okay, thank you.
But I can further research too. Part of our data problem we had here is this is over 2 different types of software, so we had to go back to the old software and dig up some old information, find people that could do that, and then also then start to reapply. And after the next year, we should have even easier access to data because it'll have a full year of using that software that is helping us a lot get that kind of information. So.
Okay.
I can remember back when Mike and Alderman Poor and myself went over, when they used to ask any of us if we wanted to go over and go through the fire safety course over there. And they kind of snickered a little bit and said, we don't have that many fires over here in Urbana. If you really want to know how to fight a fire, they'd say go to Danville. I mean, really, that's what they told them, because we have some all the time, and they don't hardly have any over there. But thank you, Chief. Puts us to item 12, Humans Relations, Ms. Finch, Administrator, items of information, and the monthly status report. Mayor, I guess that's on you.
Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Anybody got any questions? Okay, thank you. Item number 13, Information Technology, Agnel De Silva, Administrator. He had items of information and gives us a monthly status report. He called me today. His wife was running a very bad temperature and everything. He was going to try to get her to the hospital this afternoon, so I told him he had his report. If anybody has any questions on his report. Pretty much tells you that our IT department is keeping busy all the time. Okay, thank you. Puts us to item 14, Legal, James L. Simon, Corporate Counsel. 14A, we have an ordinance amending Danville City Code Section 30.61 and 30.62. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on this ordinance? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman Williams,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Strebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to 14B. We have an ordinance amending ordinance number 9397, amending Danville City Code Chapter 31 concerning effective date of City of Danville ward boundary changes. I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Is there any questions on 14B ordinance? Not, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Strebing,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, motion carries. Puts us to 14C, items of information, their statistical report. You all got copies of all that, so.
You all have the statistical report for cases in December, and then cases for the entire year of 2022. We are making some minor changes to how we organize cases. In the past, what has happened is when one of our inspectors goes out to a property and sees 2 or more violations, he will write up citations for each violation, present them to our legal assistants, and then they will, let's say there are three different ones, inoperable vehicle, weeds and grass, and let's say, I don't know, other junk in the yard. They will, write up 3 separate citations, and then we will open 3 separate cases, even though it's the same property where the violation has been observed. We are going to change that and make that one case. It'll streamline not only city court, but what our legal assistants do. It will slightly affect the statistics. You'll probably see at the end of next year, if you compare this year or this past year to this year at the end, probably a slight drop because, right now theoretically we're double or triple counting because of the types of violations. Also, we've been having weekly meetings. My inspectors and I have had weekly meetings with CitizenServe in arranging for the transition over to that process and away from Excella. We are making better progress along the way than we thought we'd be at this point in the time. We're still hoping to go live in August. We just finished up our template letters, and I took a crack at rewriting a good deal of them, simplify them, get them better organized, rather than relying on language that's probably 20 years old. So we're making progress in legal. We also have an intern who is going through tons of boxes. There's a whole room next to the legal department conference room filled with cases that have never been closed out. So this person is coming in, a couple hours during the week, and she's entering close out of the cases. We've given her a metric on making decisions in terms of cases where people may or may not be making payments in their payment plans. These are older cases, 5, 7, 8, 10, 18 years old, some of them. And we're just clearing up as much of this as we can. This has been a project that I know Becky and Karen in my office have wanted to do for years, and finally we're tackling it. And then when Lisa Munson organizes our records destruction go around for this year, probably in the late summer, early fall, we'll inundate that truck with folders. And it's working out very well.
Is there any questions for Mr. Simon? Yes.
So when you write up the cases and there's 3 separate cases, will they have to abate, they'll have to abate all 3 before it's,
Yes.
they drop the citation?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only question we have on combining cases is, let's say we have a demolition case or a building repair case. We ask that they complete that work within 21 days or 30 days or 60 days, where the other, the inoperable vehicle, vehicle parked on a soft surface, the zoning type stuff with the campers, and weeds and grass cases, we ask for them to remediate that in 14 days across the board. I just want to check with our inspectors to see if we can do this, combine, let's say, a demo case with, let's say, a weeds and grass case. I mean, I'm being somewhat facetious because it's going to take a while to do the weeds and grass or the demo, but there are cases, siding, roofs and all, that we don't take on ourselves that the owner doesn't. But if we could combine that with the weeds and grass and the stuff in the yard, all that, again, that would, in my mind, be very helpful. And I know Becky and Karen would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Simon? Not? Thank you, sir. Puts us to item 15. 15A, we have a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Vermillion County Metropolitan Enforcement Group I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
Since it's for the same purpose.
Oh, and we'll add, how about we just add B to this too, because it's about the same purpose. 15B is a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with Vermillion County Metropolitan Enforcement Group. I guess I'll need I'll make the motion to approve and dispense with the reading and ask for your approval on 15B. I'll need a second, please.
Second.
We'll take both these together then. Is there any questions on A and B resolutions?
Explain.
Say again?
Explain.
Okay,
A
what
short
this is,
yeah.
we sign an MOU every year with them.
Okay.
And interagency agreement.
Right.
I wanted to make sure and bring this to everyone's attention because we just changed a couple things.
Okay.
That I saw in it that I wanted to make sure that it had to do with contradiction to our policies and how long we man someone. The biggest difference is, such as Vermillion County Sheriff's Office, they've had someone assigned to that unit for probably over a decade. We rotate ours out every 3 years. That way we can give them resources, those officers come back and provide that information, resources to
Sure.
the rest of the guys, and we send someone else.
Okay.
It's a developmental issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions on the resolutions? If not, roll call, please.
Alderman York,
Yes.
Pickering,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Strebing,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Puts us to 15C, items of information. C1 is December 2022 offense data, and C2 is year-to-date offense data. Chief?
Looking at December, we had a couple, looked like some anomalies there that I didn't like, and that was the assault. Of course, those are lower numbers, but still, any type of increase I'd prefer not to have. Then we also saw similar increases in batteries. Went from 13 last year to 19 for December. And then we also saw an increase in burglaries. However, I will tell you that that was from a string of storage facilities. And we had quite a few of them. And we're working on those. So the other numbers essentially stayed near the same or went down, which that's good out of those 13. We call them that dirty dozen. Looking at the year, it was much better. We saw decreases in almost every category from last year to this year, some significant, some slight. We had a couple minor increases from 21, but still a decrease from 20. And overall, for those same offenses, we've reduced it from, in 2020, 3,281 incidents down to 2,887. I'd love to see that looking like a 2 and 3 zeros behind it before I call it quits. But we're doing what we can. We're seeing it. The last chart is pretty much just a pie chart for a different illustration. I'm a little jealous about Chief. Whenever he gave them to distribute, I was just going to throw them that way. He got done before I did. Good job. Excellent.
Excellent job.
The year-end report I'm working on. Unfortunately, I had something that took up a little bit of time the last couple weeks. No excuse. I'll get to it. The last thing I wanted to bring up, and I appreciate all the work that several people put into this, including Deputy Chief McCord, Director of Communications 911 Center, one of their supervisors, a couple of our supervisors, IT department, as well as our administration's manager, probably have between 40 and 50 hours total on this, based off the complaint that was lodged at in open air at council last week. And we went and immediately that morning, I ordered a informal inquiry, determine whether or not we needed to have an internal affairs investigation, and what we found determined that we did not. I'm going to just read if you want to look. However, you may want to focus on the tables on page 2. The first table, I'll explain it real quick, that's what the list was that you're given on the handwritten notice. And then the second table are stops that we found or contacts that we found that they did not mention on that handwritten, or the handwritten note that was turned in. Okay, so I'm gonna read, so just bear with me, I'll do it quick. At the city council meeting on 01/17/23 during public comment, former alderman and Danville resident Lloyd Randall presented a public complaint. Mr. Randall provided that he was there to represent another Danville resident, who I'll refer to as citizen, in order to provide and respect his privacy. Mr. Randall provided all members of the council with packet of documents prior to council and made known his intention not to share the information with Mayor Williams as well as Sandra Finch, Human Relations Administrator. Mr. Randall did not offer any information to me until approximately 6 p.m. as city council was beginning. However, it should be noted that I was made aware that someone was intending on making a public complaint against DPD due to the news media leaving a message indicating the same. I had no information for a response. I sat in council like all of you, listening to Mr. Randall stating his complaint. He shared citizens' personal information to include a letter from Dr. A. Mickelson, VA Ileana Healthcare System, describing citizens' private information as well as a professional and informative explanation of the effects of PTSD. It was clear that this letter was requested by citizen. However, it is unknown if there was any guidance or direction by Mr. Randall. Mr. Randall advised that he was speaking for Citizen because Citizen was unable to do so because of his condition. However, Citizen did speak on his own behalf. I was engaged with Citizen's statement as he described the harshness of the treatment by the officers of the Danville Police Department. He appeared sincere in his request for help, and I, as well as many, was moved by his statement and wanted to help. I did not offer a rebuttal or response. However, I took him for his word, and there was a need for reflection, confirmation, and appropriate response. Immediately the following morning, I ordered an informal inquiry on the complaint. This was not the request at the time by HRD. However, Ms. Finch did contact me later in the day. I tasked Deputy Chief McCord with finding and gathering all information regarding citizens and all contact with DPD and its personnel in relation to traffic stops during the time provided by Mr. Randall and Citizen. Resources included our law enforcement records management system. I'll refer to that as LERMS entries, NCIC, which is National Crime Information Center, and CAD records. That's our communications. Traffic citations back to 2017 as well as 2017, as well as body-worn camera video. Personnel involved include myself, Deputy Chief McCord, IT section, Administration's Division Manager, 911 Communications Director, as well as Communications Supervisor. Again, those are the two lists. We marked them down. I did make note. There's an asterisk on 4/11/20 and 4/11/21 because the date, we found the stop, but it was the wrong year. But that could be a simple error. Okay, and then I put findings on each one. Following table are the contacts were not reported to the council by Mr. Randall, but were located during the inquiry and search for records. Now, where it says no record in LERMS, NCIC, or leads, okay, that means that we checked every technological system, records management system that we have, and I believe it was checked, double checked, triple checked, and then we sent back for a fourth time and quadruple checked. And we hit it from several different directions, not just us, but also Communications Center, which is a separate entity. Okay, and we were able to find some that he stated. However, we're also able to find 3 additional ones. One being traffic crash at Vermilion and Winter, the other one a traffic stop at Logan and Fairchild, and that was before we had body-worn cameras, as well as a traffic stop at Williams and Griffin. The unaccounted stops reported by citizen can only be left to speculation. Did he start keeping record following the first alleged account on 3/18/18, or did he create the list from recollection? Were the stops elsewhere in a different jurisdiction? Was there an error in all 3 of the systems of recording? All LERMS, CAD, and NCIC? Do not want to suggest fabrication, and I'm not. However, there are 3 contacts, including the latest on 9/21/22 that wasn't mentioned. They were not listed by citizens, so I would be inclined and satisfied that there was a recollection error. Upon the findings provided by the inquiry and follow-up conducted on Mr. Randall's complaint, there was no indication that the officers responded as citizens suggested, something to the effect, these young officers come at you hard and aggressive. After reviewing the body-worn camera video footage, it was quite to the contrary. Each officer, as well as citizen, were polite, professional, and even friendly to each other. Verbal warnings were given at officers' discretion, and officers took additional time to explain stipulations of the restricted driving permit. One officer, on 3/9 of 22, allowed citizen to conduct personal business, pay a phone bill following a stop because it was right there in that location, in that lot. The officer is then heard on the video advising citizen that he did not want to risk a violation to his RDP by citing him for the violation. This traffic stop ended with the officer and citizen shaking hands and genuinely wishing each other well. On each of the stops in which we can confirm through BWC footage, the officers were friendly. At no time did citizen appear to be shaken, with the exception of the previous mentioned stop when citizen mixed up his story given to the officer, in which it was conceded that citizen was driving in violation of his RDP. One fact that Mr. Randall, as well as citizen, failed to note during the public complaint is that citizen is driving on a revoked Illinois driver's license. He is only allowed to drive under the limitations of the restricted driver's license permit, or driver's permit, which is the RDP. The restrictions limited citizen to drive from his residence to two different locations, one being his place of employment and the other is to the VA. Three of the stops reported in the traffic crash were not near the most direct route to his place of employment nor the VA. Citizen and Mr. Randall advised that citizen's son is not comfortable and in fear of riding with citizen. This hit me, missed my spot. Based on the RDP, the only places that it would be legal for citizen to drive with his son would be work or the VA. I don't know if citizen and his son work at the same place of employment. I'm not going to look into that. I do think that would be even more impressing into his privacy that was exploited last week. In conclusion, the officers did not violate any rules of the DPD policy manual, rules and regulations. They were professional and friendly. There was never any indication of crisis involving citizen or the officers. The officers conducted themselves as models of service to the community, and I commend their actions demonstrated on the videos. I think we all saw it. Just based off the appearance and how he conducted himself, I think he's a good man. He may have made some mistakes that negatively impacted his driving privileges. However, there's no judgment on his character based on that. He served his country like many of us on the department. We have a great appreciation for that. There's no indication that he is anything other than a good member of our community. We recognize the importance of mental health to include PTSD. We have mandatory training requirements as well as additional training that we have received from the VA as well as other resources or sources. A large number of our contacts involve mental health issues, and it is on the forefront of our conscience when assessing calls for service, traffic stops, as well as emergency situations. Again, it was not observed or an apparent factor in any of these confirmed stops. There was discussion of it, but no discussion of a present crisis. Mr. Randall suggests a citizen was profiled based on his race. There is no indication of that. To the contrary, citizen's vehicle has tinted windows. In addition, two of the contacts were made late at night during hours of darkness. Mr. Randall inferred that citizen was also pulled over because of his type of vehicle. Citizen drives an early 2000s four-door sedan similar to the model year of a Toyota Camry. I know it because I got one sitting in my garage. There's nothing significant to the vehicle that would set it apart from any other. However, it is exceptionally well cared for, and as one of the officers stated, it smelled something to the effect of wonderful, in which citizen thanked the officer for the compliment. Mr. Randall would have to elaborate as to how he stereotypes vehicles or the perception of how others do. Based on the aforementioned, it appears that someone found value with the vulnerability of citizen and manipulated sparse information that was available to fit the best interests of someone else other than citizen. Citizen was also subject to social pressures and judgment via social media, and that was a concern of mine because it went out almost immediately. Mm-hmm. There's irresponsible posting of stuff on the on Facebook, whatever it is, and it leaves everybody to critique, criticize, and often make judgment on individuals. Citizen was also subject to social pressures, judgment via social media. This is something that the police expect, however, a member of our community should be protected from it. Whether done intentionally or inadvertently is not for me to determine. The Danville Police Department will continue in providing the highest standards of professionalism and service possible for our community through continued development of its members. When there are mistakes, we'll be transparent and make corrections to improve. I think we've showed that over and over through the last 4 years. When it is brought to our attention, we will correct behavior that does not meet our standards. However, I will continue to support, along with our community and city leaders, our personnel who are doing the right things the right way while they are working, making sacrifice and taking risks every day for our community and those who come and visit our city. Any questions? Go ahead.
I'll let you finish.
I'm very disappointed. We have a redacted sets of videos for each one of the stops that we have since the complaints and since we've had the BWCs. However, for whatever reason, we can't get that to connect with that. So we will make those available to you. I'll have to see how we can do that. ID's a little bit beyond.
Well, I would really prefer that you come back when the full council's here, so the other 7 aldermen can hear this. And this is going to be in February. And by then, maybe you can show that.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're in a very unique situation because one, I think we have, as law enforcement, have a duty and a responsibility, regardless of the circumstances, to shield or protect someone who may be vulnerable, who may have been manipulated, who may have been caught up. I think we have a responsibility for that. And I won't do anything to jeopardize that for my agenda, which is supporting police officers, obviously, when they do right. So.
Ms. Teague, you had a question?
Yes. One question that I have, because I'm looking at the table. Are all stops automatically recorded? Like how do we, I'm trying to understand what would result in something that if he says he's being stopped and it's not recorded, is it because of someone did not record the stop or the stops are automatically recorded? I just want to understand the data.
And this is a question very similar to what the mayor asked. And I'll run you through real quickly exactly how the stop happens, okay? And we'll role play just for a minute, and I'll play both parts. Danville 1 Command 1 traffic. Go ahead. I'll have traffic stop on Adam Boy Charles 123 at Main and Vermilion. Adam Boy Charles 123 at Main and Vermilion. 10-4. I get out, walk out. Hello, my name's Chief Yates. The reason why I pulled you over, you're going 49 in a 30-mile-per-hour speed zone. Is there any reason for you're traveling so fast, or is there an emergency? No, there isn't. I lost track of time. Okay, I get driver's license, proof of insurance, go back to my car. I either read it out or put it on my computer. Everything that I voice transmit or put in my computer goes into a CAD system that's also married to a LERM system, which is Law Enforcement Records Management System. So therefore, the only human error would have to be a double error in which the radio operator was completely asleep at the wheel, which that doesn't happen because they have an audit system that's much more sophisticated than what I can explain, as well as an officer, a lot of the officers put it on their MDTs, mobile data terminals, which is married to both LERMs and the CAD. Okay, so there's multiple systems that all marry each other. However, looking at it and how there were some things that were not collected or not reported to us, there were some things with the dates wrong that we were able to locate. Yes, that did indeed happen, but it rather in 2020, it was 2021. We believe that there could have been a recollection issue because I doubt very much on the same piece of paper and the same pen, if you saw the writing, that he started this record keeping in 2018 and just kept a running log. I think unless he had it in multiple notes and then put it all together later on, I just don't see someone being able to predict there's a problem at their first traffic stop and be able to log it. I don't know if that's reasonable.
My understanding from when Mr. Randall contacted me with information is that there were some that he did not write down because he couldn't recall. And so I can imagine that there's probably, like you said, a recollection error, which, I couldn't tell you.
I'm more than happy to
what-
accept that.
Yeah, what date certain things happened, except for the date of my car fire. I remember that. So, but significant things happen in a car, you remember that. Other
Sure.
things you don't. So I can understand that. One of the things I just wanted to say, I got the impression, and I'm not insinuating that you're saying something different. I'm insinuating that it can be interpreted differently. I got the impression that Citizen was not saying he was treated poorly by police. I never got the impression that he was saying that. I got the impression that he was just concerned with the number of stops and wanting to understand why. I can say that maybe it might have been insinuated by someone else that he was treated poorly, but when he got up and spoke for himself, he talked about how well he was treated by officers, especially the ones who were also had the similar background as him as military. But one of the things that I remember him saying, but you don't know who you're going to get. And I can say, as a law-abiding African American, I feel the same way anytime I get stopped. And I get frazzled anytime I get stopped. I have been profiled, not in this city, but I have been profiled. And any time that you've been profiled and you've been stopped for no reason, it sticks with you. So I can understand, even though he might not appear visibly shaken, as a person of color who's ever been profiled, you do get scared, period. And you don't know who the officer is. And if they don't know, Chief Yates runs a tight ship, and we don't have those types of officers in our community, then he would not know. And so I think that comes into play for him in terms of making the request for why is he being stopped so often. But I can see why he was rattled, even though I understand that you all have done your due diligence and you found no ill procedures or anything like that, and I'm happy for that. But I want to acknowledge that, I don't think he said that.
What I'm referring to was when he made the statement, something to the effect that these new young officers, referring to current or recent, come up on you very hard and aggressive. And that's where I base that off of.
Okay, I can understand.
And I've been pulled over, okay? I was going on, I think, 19, or that highway goes into Indiana. I was listening to something on the AM radio. And I get pulled over. I think I was going probably, I don't know, between 5 and 10 over. And I know he's going to ask me, and I'm sitting there waiting for him to come up, and I make a specific note. I'm not going to identify myself as a police officer because I just think it's sort of creepy. And then I realized I have a problem. First of all, I was a little nervous anyway because I'm getting pulled over. It could cost me money. Or it could turn in bad because my driver's license and my ID is in my glove box. So is my insurance card. So is my registration. So is my duty weapon. So I understand, regardless of race, I understand there's fears that I may not be able to ever comprehend or anxiety, and I respect that. However, when you see the video on these stops, I would suggest that if I was having a bad day and I was driving home and an officer pulled me over to let me know that there was something wrong with my rear lighting that I would never be able to see whenever I'm driving, and then he did stop me and I had the interaction that you'll be able to witness on video, it would make my day better just because of the conversation and the interaction that they had between these two. And when I looked at these, I was very proud of the officers, all three of them. Two of them, more experienced officers, notice that this RDP, you're actually driving revoked if you're outside the restrictions, which at that time the officer could have towed the vehicle, could have theoretically arrested him, made him post bond, which we don't It's not something that we want to do in that particular circumstance. But the officer specifically pointed out and told him where he was in violation. He goes, hey, listen, I don't want to hang you up on you're trying to get your driver's license back. The only thing he knows about this guy is that he goes to a certain place for service, and he also goes to a certain place for work. And there's nothing that that officer is wanting to do that's going to inhibit or prevent that from happening, him getting his regular driver's license back. And I saw that on all three stops. Two of them pointed it out a little bit more clear than the first one. There was talk about, I got pulled over for 3 over. Actually, it was 14 over in an area that we have the highest amount of complaints and traffic crashes, where indeed he was actually involved in a traffic crash, but it wasn't his fault. And he wasn't cited, the other person was, but it was outside of the restriction of his driver's permit. There was also concerns that, you know, I think I made it very clear that I think I have no information or indication that he's anything other than a contributing member of our community. And that's where I stand. However, at the same time, I'll make sure that our officers, when they're doing the right thing, the right way, following policy, and doing it for the right reasons while taking risk at the same time, I'm going to support them 100%. But I'll hold them responsible just as vigorously. And I'm curious whether or not anybody that brought this up, whether negligible in their information or reckless in their display, will present that in the same vigor that they presented it in the first place. An apology.
And I'll say that I know, and in my personal experiences, I've never had anything but good experiences in Danville with Danville police. And there have been times when I was stopped in Danville and I was rattled because I got stopped. And I know the only reason I was rattled is because of all of the things that happen in society and all of the other places outside of Danville.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that, though. I do need to add this, because I did have a conversation, and I've seen extremely good interactions and extreme patience from police in witnessing stops. Right? I've seen one I emailed you about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. And I'm not going to say any more to protect the person involved.
Sure.
But I also have been informed of family members who have been profiled, black male family members of mine. Mm-hmm. One of them who is at an age where he is only in Danville for the summer and had been stopped multiple times and hasn't had a car that long. And so I can't help but conclude, well, if there was no ticket, and I would love to have a conversation with you about it, you know, and we can talk about it in detail, but I did have conversations after the meeting where I was told, no, there wasn't just one stop. That person has been stopped 3 times, to the point where the other family member said, don't go anywhere in your own car. And so I do believe that it does happen. It's just not as prevalent here as in other places. But I do believe it does happen, and I've heard multiple instances of it. And I know I'm very close with this one individual because it is a family member.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, we have to handle each case, case by case. We're very fortunate now because we have the ability to document, and we hold video much longer than a lot of people believe that we do, because there's statutes and then there's Danville PD, okay? But I look at each case individually, because sometimes there's a perception that someone is getting pulled over multiple times by the same people, or because whether it's Officer A or Officer B, it's still Department A. Mm-hmm. What they have to realize is that you could be pulled over for multiple different officers, but they're pulling over the violation, not the individual. And that's what we have to look at. The reason why a lot of people don't write tickets is because they just don't like writing people tickets.
No, I can understand that. I appreciate that. So.
And because, first of all, we're a much more empathetic career field than what we've had been in the past, because they understand with the different laws and stuff and the cost, that we know that we can pull someone over for going say 43 and a 30. They're on their way to work or on their way back or on their way to lunch and hurrying to get back. We understand that that traffic citation can pretty much wipe out 2 days of work that they may have been working for. And if so, then that's going to put that person back even further. And I think the officers think about it. I know I did. And I came from a different era that wasn't near as empathetic and sensitive as this generation, which I think is a good thing. So I can't speak for any other cases. I can only speak for the cases that was brought up to me. And I want to make sure, and this is another fear that I have, is that if we do not shield this person who made a complaint, maybe not in the most effective or efficient manner, I don't want this to discourage someone to come forward and talking to me because they feel like they may be humiliated or taken advantage of. That's why it's so important that we protect people and we have a system and a way that should be known to certain people involved to where they can do it in anonymity, they can do it in confidence, and they can do it to be a fact-finding and result-driven mission. And those are the things that we have to do. And if I see anything else other than that, all kinds of other speculations could pop up in people's minds as to the motivation, grandstanding, trying to make relevancy, bring it attention, possibly. But there's other ways. And I find it difficult to believe that was the case. If so, it would have been brought to the mayor's attention. It would have been brought to Sandra Finch's attention, because Sandra doesn't take that lightly. And it would have been brought to my attention. I can't get in those two minds, but I can get in my own. And I definitely take care of that type of business. Very strongly, but I'll defend it just as strongly whenever it's right.
And I'd also just like to say, Chief, that I am not at all surprised and also appreciate the fact that you immediately took action on it the following morning.
Thank you. That's our standard operating procedure on that. It was important to do that.
Yes.
And that was my thought, too. I just want to thank you for your quickness, getting this report back to us and all the other officers. I really appreciate this.
Well, I'd like to take the credit, but I put most of the work on Deputy Chief McCord.
But you gave the order.
The next day and then the next 5 days.
Is there any other questions?
Hopefully, we can resolve this if there's any underlying issues as to why this was brought up to possibly provoke actions on others. I mean it whenever we talk about we're in continuing development to provide a professional law enforcement service to not just to the community, to our community. We're part of it. And I think that's something that can be said on a motto, it can be said in a speech, but I think our actions and what many of you may have seen, maybe I'm overestimating it, I think that it's been apparent what our efforts have been. We've been through a very difficult 4 years. If you consider what all has happened, things outside of our control and things that we can control, and then things that we can control very little. And I think the city of Danville as a community, with the assistance of city leadership, with the assistance of our community working together, we came out pretty darn good, considering. I wouldn't trade our city for any others.
Anybody else have anything for the chief? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Sorry it took so long.
That's all right. Hey, this is important, need to be cleaned up, and be looking forward to maybe seeing the film in February. Puts us item number 16, closed session. I don't think we have any need for that. Item 17, items of information. Anybody have anything for the good of the cause? We will meet here February 7th, I believe, in 2023, 6 p.m. right down here. And the only thing, we fulfilled everything we had on our agenda this evening, so the only thing left is adjournment. I'll need a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Good luck with your Wording.
Because I'm like, I'm working and I'm across the street, and I'm like, oh yeah, then I'll go, oh crap, we need to back up and go. It's 5:52.